Hello and welcome to another Magic Sealed deck building exercise. Today we're taking a look at the newest set, which is Battle for Zendikar. So let's get started here and jump right into it, starting with our first booster. We will be opening 6 of them and then building a 40 card deck. And Battle for Zendikar should be also available soon for the Magic Duels games, so it's nice to get a head start. So let's get cracking and see if I can open these boosters without butchering them too much. Alright, there we go. And what I like to do here, as usual, is sorting the cards by color. That also includes all the void cards, which are technically colorless, but we'll put them in the according color nonetheless. Alright, so we start here with our first card, which is Incubator Drone. So one of the many devoid cards in the set, but we'll count it as a blue card here. Then we have a Culling Drone. A Seek the Wilds. Coral Helm Guide. Reckless Cohort. Felidar Cub. We have a Boiling Earth. Dominator Drone. Valakut Predator. Sheer Drop. Turn Against as our first uncommon. A Royal Spout. Our first retreat, this is Retreat to Hagra. And our rare is a Drowner of Hope. Alright. And of course the sweet full art lands, which are pretty cool. Alright, let's head into our second pack here. This went a lot better. And we start off with another Culling Drone. Giant Mantis. Anticipate. Mind Raker. Core Castigator. Another Boiling Earth. Smite the Monstrous. Stone Fury. Undo Greathorn. Lifespring Druid. Skyrider Elf. As our first uncommon, our second uncommon is a Firemantle Mage. And then we have another Retreat to Valakut. And our rare is an Oran Reef Hydra. So very powerful landfall card. Alright. And a pretty forest and even a Gideon emblem, but sadly no Gideon. Alright, looking good so far. Move on to our third booster. Where we open another Seek the Wilds. Another Coral Helm Guide. Our third Boiling Earth. Lithomancer's Focus as a nice little combat trick. Evolving Wilds, which could definitely help us play 3 colors. Silent Skimmer. Rush of Ice. Natural Connection. Unnatural Aggression. Geyser Field Stalker. Our uncommon is Grove Tender Druids. Second uncommon is Adverse Conditions. And a Sylvan Scrying for the modern players out there. And the rare is Noyandar, a Royal Shaper, which can enable some cool shenanigans. Alright, and the sweet Cup Island and a plant token. Alright, move on to booster number 4. Where we start with a Territorial Baloth, Clutch of Currents, Calastria Nightwatch, Lava Step Raider, Makindi Patrol, Cloud Manta, a Sandstone Bridge as one of the many enter the battlefield tap land with sweet abilities, a Tajuru Beastmaster, Demon's Grasp, Skyline Cascade, our first uncommon is Akum Stonewalker, Crumble to Dust, also for the modern players out there, Horribly Awry, and our rare is a pretty nice one here in Green Warden of Murasa, Double Eternal Witness, can get you a lot of value, and a Forest. Alright, sweet. So already opened 2 pretty sweet green rares, so green looks like a pretty powerful color. This is our second to last pack. And we start off with a Royal Mage's Trick. We have a Dutiful Return. Swell of Growth. Outnumber, which is a nice removal spell. Angelic Gift. Another Sandstone Bridge. Another Cloud Manta. Scour from Existence. Grave Birthing. Broodhunter Worm. First uncommon is a Catacomb Sifter. then a Processor Assault, then Dampening Pulse, and our rare is Zada Hedron Grinder. Alright. And some more tokens, sweet. On to our final booster. Where we start with another Territorial Baloth, another Royal Mage's Trick, Dutiful Return, Lithomancer's Focus, Sure Strike, another Skyline Cascade, Eyeless Watcher, Rush of Ice, Silent Skimmer, Mortuary Mire, Unified Front as our first uncommon, then a Rot Shambler. Our last uncommon is Ulamog's Nullifier, and our rare is Emiria Shepherd. Sweet. Alright, I took a few minutes to sort all the different colors in 3 different groups per color. I've got cards I'm excited to play, cards I don't mind playing, and cards I would prefer not to play. So taking a look at white, we can see that Emiria Shepherd is a card I'm excited to play, so I'll put it on the top here. Sheer Drop is a card I'm excited to play, and Smite the Monstrous, since those are all removal spells that are important. Lithomancer's Focus is a card I wouldn't mind playing, although it goes better in a more aggressive deck. Felidar Cub is just a filler 2-drop, same with the Castigator. McKinney Patrol can be playable, although it's not the most exciting one, same with Ondu Greathorn. And then I've got 2 cards here that I would prefer not to play, which are Unified Front and Angelic Gift. So this gives us a better idea where the good cards are. So in white we have 3 cards I would like to play, and then a bunch of cards that aren't exactly great, but I could play, and then 2 cards I would prefer not to play. Alright, and then moving over to blue, cards I'm excited to play are Drowner of Hope, Dampening Pulse, and Clutch of Currents. Cards I don't mind playing are Horribly Awry, Anticipate, Adverse Conditions, Coral Helm Guide, we have 2 of them, same with Cloud Manta. Incubator Drone is also solid playable. And then cards I would prefer not to play in blue are a Rush of Ice, since it's one of the weaker Awaken cards, even though most Awaken cards are quite good. And then a Royal Mage's Trick, especially since I don't think we'll end up playing a lot of colors. Then taking a look at black, cards I'm excited to play are Demon's Grasp, and that's about it. Then we have a lot of solid playables but not exciting cards. Culling Drones fall in that category. Grave Birthing can enable some ingest stuff. Dominator Drone if you have a lot of colorless creatures. Silent Skimmer is one of the better cards here, just 2 power basically, flyer for 4 mana, which is also colorless. Mindraker is 3/3 for 4, which is not exciting, but if you do get to trigger his ability, it becomes a lot better. And Calastria Nightwatch is fine, especially if you have a few ways to gain life. And the Stalker is also fine, but better in a more aggressive deck. And then Retreat to Hagra, I would only play if the life gain enables a lot of your creatures, which I don't think is the case here. So I would prefer not to play it. And then Dutiful Return is a good grindy late game card, but I would probably put it in the sideboard to start with. So these cards I would prefer not to play. So not a lot of exciting cards in black here, but again a lot of playable cards. Then taking a look at red, Outnumber is an exciting removal spell since it's so cheap. Turn Against has the potential to get us some 2-for-1s. And Stone Fury is also a solid removal spell. And then some solid cards, but not especially exciting cards. We have Sure Strike, Processor Assault, if we have some colorless cards to go with it. Akum Stonewalker is decent. Valakut Predator. Fire Mantle Mage in a more aggressive deck. Zada, even though it's a rare, it's kind of difficult to get a lot of value out of it in Sealed. And then cards I would prefer not to play, Lava Step Raider, Reckless Cohort, the 3 Boiling Earths, Retreat to Valakut, and Crumble to Dust. So lots of cards I wouldn't like to play in red, as you can see. And then taking a look at green, where we had some sweet rares. Of course, Green Warden is a card I'm excited to play. Same with Oran Reef Hydra. Then the solid but not exciting cards. We have Swell of Growth, which is a combat trick. Unnatural Aggression. Even though it's a removal spell, it does require you to have a big creature in play. Lifespring Druid, Mana Fixing and Ramp, which is a pretty rare thing. Natural Connection can also enable some landfall creatures. Rot Shambler, especially powerful if you have a lot of Scion tokens you can sacrifice. Giant Mantis is fine. Eyeless Watcher, nice ramp and can enable the Rot Shambler, for example. Territorial Baloth, just a big dude. We have 2 of them. Brood Hunter Worm, one of the weaker cards, because I think 3 toughness dies to a lot of stuff. Then the Tajuru Beastmaster if we need another expensive creature. And then cards I would prefer not to play, the Seek the Wilds and Sylvan Scrying. Then taking a look at our lands, we have 1 Evolving Wild, so not a ton of mana fixing here. And then some cool lands with effects. But we can get back to those when we're building our mana base. And then the Scour from Existence is a decent card in Sealed. 7 mana is a lot, but it does get rid of pretty much anything. And then lots of powerful multicolor cards, which is difficult to say if we'll end up playing them. It kind of depends what colors we end up in. So yeah, I think it's time to start building a deck here. I think I will start with the green, since that seems like the deepest color, and then perhaps pair it with blue and see how that deck looks like. And yeah, I'll see you back in a bit. Welcome back. This is how the blue-green deck would look like. As we can see, we have lots of our powerful rares in this deck, which is nice. But to get to those more expensive cards, we also need to have a decent early game so we can survive until that point. We have a few cards that also ramp us, like Lifespring Druid and Natural Connection, which can also enable landfall. A decent amount of cards that make Scion tokens, which also synergize with Rot Shambler. And of course we can use the Scion tokens to play our more expensive cards if we have to. We don't have a ton of removal spells, or only actual removal spell is Unnatural Aggression, but we do have a few ways to interact with the opponent. We have Horribly Awry, Swell of Growth as a combat trick. We also have Adverse Conditions to buy us some time, Dampening Pulse to weaken the opponent's attack, and Clutch of Currents, which I put in the 5-drop slot because most of the time we would like to awaken it. And then we also have the Scour from Existence in the late game, which can also help. So we do rely on our powerful rares here to get the job done. But we do also have some flying creatures with Skyrider Elf and 2 Cloud Mantas. So I don't hate this deck. It looks decent. The only thing I'm worried about is the lack of removal spells. But as we've seen, there's not a lot of removal spells in this sealed pool. So perhaps we could take a look at splashing some removal spells from white, for example. We could try and play Sheer Drop and or Smite the Monstrous, which are splashable with only single white in their mana cost. And we do already have an Evolving Wilds plus a Lifespring Druid and Natural Connection. So I could definitely see splashing the white cards. It does make our mana a little bit worse, but I think in the end it might be worth it. So if we do want to play these 2 white cards, unfortunately we can't play the Emeria Shepherd since it's double white. But if we want to play Sheer Drop, including Natural Connection makes sense. That can find us a basic plains. The weaker cards here are probably the Swell of Growth, which doesn't really fit into a deck that's more relying on 6 drops than early creatures to deal damage. So I don't hate removing that one. And if we want to make room for Smite the Monstrous, I could see just removing the Anticipate since it's not really necessary to play it. So then this deck would look like this. We do have a lot of 4 drops, which might be a problem. We could also play the Royal Mage's Trick now that we are playing 3 colors, since it's a Converge card. But I think we have enough 4 drops as is, so I don't really want to play more of them. So let's see. Yeah, I don't hate the look of this, since now the white also makes our Skyrider Elf a little bit better. I do like the Horribly Awry as some early interaction, since we don't have a ton of it. And taking another glance at our multicolor cards, we could play Noyandar, which is also white. Could also play the Grove Tender Druids and could also play the Royal Spouts, which are powerful cards for sure. So let's see, let's take a closer look. Alright, so this is how the blue-green deck would look like with a white splash. So we've added Sheer Drop, Royal Spout, Smite the Monstrous and Noyandar Royal Shaper as our splash cards. But we do have a decent amount of mana fixing with a Lifespring Druid. We have a Natural Connection which can find a Plains, and Evolving Wilds which can also grab a Plains if we wanted to. So that means that with the Plains we have 4 white sources already, which I think is a decent amount for 4 splash cards, which we don't really necessarily need in the early game. But right now we have 24 cards here, so that means we only have 16 lands at the moment, which is, I think, 1 or 2 too few, since I think it's actually reasonable to play 18 lands in this deck, since we have lots of expensive cards, we have some landfall creatures as well. So I think we need to make 2 more cuts, which means I think it might be the Mantis which gets removed here. I mean, a 2-4 reach isn't bad, but we do already have a decent amount of ground blockers and we have some air offense as well. So I think cutting the Mantis is fine here, since I do like to have the Scion tokens to go along with our Rod Shambler, which becomes larger whenever we lose a creature. So that seems fine, and we already have a lot of 4 drops here. Could see cutting the Adverse Conditions, although it's another instant or sorcery for Noyandar. So it's definitely a difficult decision here. We could just get rid of Scour from Existence, since it is a pretty expensive card. But if we are playing 18 lands, I don't mind having Scour from Existence. So I think it's close here between playing 17 lands or 18 lands. We do have 2 ramp cards already, so maybe 18 lands is too many. But if we do have to cut 1 more card, I could also see cutting one of the Territorial Balos here, since we have a decent late game already with all these 6 drops. So I could see doing this, which would lead us to having 22 playable cards plus 18 lands, including Evolving Wilds, which should do the trick. since now we have some interaction with the opponent thanks to the white cards. A pretty powerful card here in Noyandar, and of course all our 6-drops, which should also be able to steal a game. We also have some decent air offense with Skyrider Elf and 2 Cloud Mantas. And we have decent fixing as well, so I don't hate the look of this deck. So I would be pretty happy to end up playing this. We can also take a look at our lands here. I don't think we want to be playing these Sandstone Bridges since we only want 1 Plains. We could play 1 Skyline Cascade just to tap down a creature, since on turn 1 and turn 2 we won't have a lot of stuff going on. Also don't have a lot of 5-drops, so could just play one of these tap lands on turn 5 and play another 4-drop. So I don't hate playing 1 Skyline Cascade. And then, so we have 2 lands already. Then for the mana base, if we're playing Evolving Wilds, a Plains and a Skyline Cascade already, means we have 50 more cards. I think we want an even split between blue and green, so if we add 7 more islands and 8 forests, we have 8 green sources, more than 8 blue sources thanks to Lifespring Druid and Natural Connection, and then 4 white sources thanks to Evolving Wilds, Natural Connection, Lifespring Druid, and the Plains. So I'm pretty happy with this deck. I don't think we're gonna find a better build using the other colors. Red really doesn't inspire me, and black also doesn't have any super exciting cards besides the Demon's Grasp. So I think this blue-green splash white deck is gonna do it. So this is the deck I would end up playing, and I would be pretty happy about it since it also looks like a fun deck to play with some sweet Awaken cards, and Noyandar also looks pretty awesome in this deck. So yeah, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this sealed deck building exercise, and as always, have a nice day.